WWE just confirmed some potential big directions for the World Heavyweight title. We'll also check out what's going on with Carlito, the Wyatts, and more. Starting things off with Carlito because it looks like the big rumored storyline has officially started to unfold there. It was reported earlier in the week that Carlito was on his way out of the Judgment Day, since things were getting a bit too crowded in the group with all their recent additions. And the October 21st edition of Raw appeared to kick off this story direction through backstage segments. Dominik Mysterio was speaking about how his vision of dethroning Gunther for the World Heavyweight title, and it was Carlito who broke into this massive laughter at the thought of Dominik taking the world title off of Gunther. It was definitely a funny moment because Carlito's reaction is basically the entire audience's reaction as well. But when you look at it from the perspective of Dominik, it is pretty messed up that your fellow faction member, who are supposed to be uplifting and supportive, are literally laughing at the thought of you coming after the world title. Dominik is a very evil character that should not really emphasize with, but it's just messed up from his close friends, his family members, to have that sort of reaction to his big desire. And not only does this moment officially start Carlito's exit from the group, but it can also turn out to be extremely early seeds for even Dominik's future exit from the group. A lot of fans are still thinking that it'll eventually be revealed that Finn Balor and Liv Morgan are actually a couple, and how Liv was only using and manipulating Dominik for a feud against Rhea Ripley. If they decide to go that direction, it sounds like they can really set up a Dominik Mysterio babyface turn. Take Liv Morgan and Finn Balor being a couple behind his back. Add the fact that every member of the Judgment Day laughs at his desires to be world champion and doesn't take him seriously. It just seems like all the early seeds for even Dominik's exit from the group. So that's something to really monitor in the background as well. But for the time being, everything appears to be directly in regards to Carlito's exit from the group. More seeds were even planted by Raquel Rodriguez when she straight up questioned Carlito on what does he even do for the group. Carlito's response is that he's the group's problem fixer, and to his credit, he did take some action. Carlito went over to Adam Pearce to ask for a world title opportunity for Dominik Mysterio. Adam Pearce questioned why Dominik wasn't asking around himself, but Carlito explained that this was his role in the group, to fix things, and he kept pushing Pearce until he finally gave in. Dominik Mysterio will have a big match coming up against a former world champion, and if he can defeat this former world champion, then Pearce will legitimately consider Dominik for a #1 contenders match for Gunther's world title. The other exciting thing about this entire scenario is that Dominik Mysterio's former world champion opponent is being kept as a mystery. The only clue we have about this mystery opponent is the fact that they're a former world champion themselves. So you can scan the Raw roster of former world champions, and a lot of them are occupied in different stories and feuds. The only ones that are semi-free to accept this match with Dominik Mysterio will be someone like Braun Strowman, CM Punk, or Seth Rollins. Braun Strowman suffered that injury a few weeks ago, but if he was to return in this spot to throw Dominik around in the ring and crush his world title dreams, the fans would be pleased by that. Dominik and CM Punk feel like they're destined to feud with each other on Raw, so that'll be a good start for the feud. But the most likely out of the three has to be Seth Rollins. Seth is currently in a feud with Bronson Reed. However, they don't face each other until Crown Jewel, giving Seth a bit of a free time until then. And to add even more evidence of Seth Rollins versus Dominik Mysterio taking place on the October 28th edition of Raw, Seth and Dominik will be facing off against each other on October 25th in a dark match after SmackDown. So their October 25th match could be them getting some reps in for their actual televised match on the October 28th edition of Raw. So that dark match itself could be a hint that Seth Rollins is that former world champion opponent for Dominik. And to make matters even more interesting, you got to assume that Bronson Reed will no doubt get involved in this match between Seth Rollins and Dominik Mysterio. And if he does, maybe that ends with Dominik pulling off some cheap win over Seth Rollins. And if Dominik does pull off that win over Seth Rollins, Adam Pearce will have to honor his promise and move Dominik up the ladder and put him close to getting a world title opportunity. So in a way, maybe Dominik's win over the former world champion and getting close to his dream match with Gunther will actually buy Carlito more time of being with the group and actually make him look good. But if Dominik is unsuccessful in obtaining the world title, pressure may start to build on Carlito again. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks for a lot of different things within the Judgment Day. Dominik now has his eyes set on this dream of winning the world title and being matching champions with Liv Morgan. The Judgment Day has simultaneously held the men and women's titles before with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley after WrestleMania 40, but it was extremely short-lived once Rhea got hurt and had to relinquish her title only a few days later. So if Dominik and Liv can make that happen for the Judgment Day again and have it last longer than when Damian and Rhea did, that'll obviously give them yet another thing to poke their chest out about towards the Terror Twins. Only issue is that it's really going to be an uphill battle for Dominik Mysterio to get his hands on the world title, especially from Gunther. The Wyatt Six made their long-awaited return on the October 21st edition of Raw to attack both The Miz and the Final Testament. There's been some fan conversation going around questioning on who exactly is the target here. Is it The Miz or the Final Testament? Well, reports claim that The Miz is expected to join forces with the Final Testament against the Wyatt Six. So the correct answer is both The Miz and the Final Testament. Uncle Howdy hasn't been liking what he's been seeing of Cross and The Miz driving people apart, and he had to pop in to get them to stop. It's also important to note that Xavier Woods was not that far away from this segment either. He was pushing Kofi Kingston away from helping with what was going on in the ring. So maybe when Howdy gets wrapped up with the Final Testament, maybe he will start paying Xavier Woods a few visits. But for now, it's Wyatt's versus Miz and the Final Testament. Miz's addition is great because it fully balances out the battle. The Wyatts have 4 male competitors and 1 female competitor, and now the Final Testament perfectly matches them in those departments as well. So a completely balanced matchup. The feud will also open up some opportunities for Scarlett. Scarlett is very much a pro wrestler, but it's impossible to think of the last time she actually had a match herself on television. So hopefully this feud gets Scarlett back in the middle of the ring against Nikki Cross, so she can showcase what she has to offer and play a role in this feud. So it looks like we can expect to see Scarlett versus Nikki, a series of different tag team matchups, and of course the main event of the feud, which will be Uncle Howdy versus Karrion Kross. And things are already getting intriguing. Kross called out Howdy for taking out Paul Ellering, when Kross claims that Paul was standing by Bo's family long before he was even born and never did anything wrong to Bo. So Kross is already spinning the narrative on Bo Dallas, saying that Bo is now turning on family members, the same thing that he criticizes other people for doing. So hopefully it turns out to be a great feud with many layers to it. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.